If there's anything that can kill a business expansion, it's inflation. Business expansions do not die. Business expansions are assassinated. And one of the great assassinators is inflation. In the 20th century, the world was filled with double-digit and triple-digit inflation rates. See, the language of an economic system is prices, wages, interest rates, profits, and losses. That is the signaling system. Those signals are telling people what to do. The problem with inflation, it distorts all those signals. Inflation is like a country where nobody speaks the truth. Inflation does to the economy what amphetamines do to the body. It looks like, it might be helpful at the start, but the end result is disastrous. Inflation is disastrous. We've had a 25-year business expansion with just a couple little blips. Blip number one was in 1991 with a small recession. Another blip was in the year 2001 and 2002 when we had 9/11 and some other things go wrong, and so we had a blip in the economy. But aside from that, we've had a 25-year business expansion. And over that 25 years, the biggest driver of all of that is we had a stable price level. The biggest driver of all of that is that we did not have inflation. Because if we would have had inflation, it would have destroyed that business expansion as sure as you're sitting there. What is going on with India itself? Until 1991, there was no freedom. Freedom is the mainspring. India followed communism. India followed socialism. India had it all wrong. And as long as they were going to do that, they were going to stay stuck in the mud. How did China do it these last 10 or 15 years? Because Deng Xiaoping, now don't get me wrong, I don't care for Deng Xiaoping. Don't get me wrong. I don't trust him. Don't get me wrong. Deng Xiaoping believed in freedom of speech, just not freedom after the speech. And that really bothers me. So don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not waving the flag for China. But here's what happened in China. Deng Xiaoping, 20 years ago, said socialism is not working. Public ownership of the means of production is not working. We've got to privatize. And so Deng Xiaoping, he even quoted a Chinese proverb that says, give a 100-year lease on a desert, and people will turn it into a garden. But give a 1-year lease on a garden, and they'll turn it into a desert. Ownership, ownership. Ownership is the key. Just what John Locke said in 1680, just what our founding fathers, this accumulation of some of the greatest talents on the face of the earth as they put this country together. And finally, in 1991, India came to its senses. And then under Deng Xiaoping, he began to give 30-year leases on the land. And now Beijing goes out to one of 100 cities of 1 million or 2 million or 3 million each. And Beijing says, listen, Beijing cannot build your sewage plants. Beijing cannot build your schools. Beijing cannot build your hospitals. You figure it out. You build the road and you can own it and you can charge tolls. That's exactly. They're just privatizing China from one end of the country to the other and empowering every city to specialize in something and become one of the great manufacturers in the world. And it's all privately. So although their government is communist and their government is totalitarian, let there be no doubt that China is privatizing, and that's why it's had 10 and 12% rates of growth for the last 15 years. And China is one of the up-and-comers. It's going to be interesting to watch how all that develops. I asked the question, how could America become the most strongest economic power, military power, political power on earth? Let me take those ideas and give you the bottom line. When you limit government, when you move towards rule of law, you create a space for freedom. And what emerges in freedom's space is entrepreneurial capitalism. You don't have to design the market, manage the market, plan the market, create the market. The market just happens. You create a space for freedom, and entrepreneurial capitalism rises in its wake. And I'm standing in front of some of the best entrepreneurial capitalists in the whole United States. What a privilege to give this message to you. All we have to do for you is create a space for freedom. That's all we have. We don't have to design your life, manage your life, tell you how to live your life. No. Create a space for freedom and entrepreneurial capitalism. Ladies and gentlemen, with less than 5% of the world's population, the United States, we've produced over 80% of the world's Nobel laureates. With less than 5% of the world's population, we've produced over 80% of the world's top inventions of the last 150 years. But listen to this one. With only less than 5% of the world's population, America is producing 1/3 of the world's wealth. This year, gross world product will be $36 trillion. America will produce $12 trillion, 1/3. Who could have believed that